In the previous episode in this series, we discussed the Tapwino, a C64 virtual dataset that allows you to play tap files from an SD card. This project is designed by Mr. Peter Edwards and has been provided as a deluxe kit by SPCBM. We had a look at the contents of the kit, we got some fixes done for the 1.7 board, which brings it up to 1.71 or 1.72 versions. That's the version you buy today, so this video starts bang on with what you need to do to build the kit.
Hello and welcome to part 2 of my series of videos on building a Tapwino, which is from Mr. Peter Edwards. Sweet little mystery. You can find it very easily by searching on the internet or by following the link below. In this one we're going to actually populate the board with the components and solder them in. First I'm going to start with the header pins. So we'll start with jumper 1. And I've got a little technique that I use here, which I use a little bit of blue tack, just gently pushed on the side with the components so that I don't drop them all over the floor when I turn the board over to do the soldering. And also it doesn't mark the board, which is quite nice. Comes off nice and clean. It doesn't have to be pushed on hard, just enough to sort of hold the bits and bobs in place. Jumper 3, where's jumper 3? That's jumper 5. Jumper 3. Jumper 4 isn't populated on the picture, so I'm thinking that jumper 3 is here. I'm thinking that I've got exactly the right amount of headers here. If you haven't watched part 1, that specifically fixes for the 1.7 revision of board, which I've got here, which has a couple of errors for the buzzer and the LEDs. So there's a couple of mods in part 1. If you've just got the version 1.71 R2 board, you don't need to make those changes, so you can actually legitimately skip that video. But go and watch it anyway, because I'm entertaining, he said. Not really. Okay, so jumper 5 up here, which is a 3 pin jobby. So all the way in, it is. Bit of blue tack. I pre-roll this into little balls as well, so it's easy to roll up. And finally, jump 6, which is for the record, write, etc. Motor sensor, I think, is on there. I'm not entirely sure. And a little bit of blue tack. So I'll switch the soldering iron on. Should have done that before, really. And of course, it's very, very simply just flipping over the board. And look, the blue tack stops the little buggers falling out, which is incredibly handy. Let's just give them a little push back through and make sure they're not dropping out at all. Yeah, looking good. I think I entirely blocked the camera then. Right, let's move it into shot. I think just make sure we're actually in focus. And we're not in focus at all. There we go. Let's try that one there. Yeah, nice little bit of a... It's quite hard to focus on these boards because they're fairly low contrast to the camera. Okay, so where is my dobber? I'm going to need a bit of solder as well. I'm shooting this video the day after the last one, so of course everything's in massively chronic disarray. Okay, component, lead and board at the same time. Nope, not quite there. Try again. Not taking at the moment. Might have to use a bit of flux. I would usually use flux, but I've put the bloody stuff away. And let's try again. One last time, then I'm going to jump cut for flux. There we go, it's getting there now. Might be the iron wasn't up to snuff temperature wise. Yeah, there we go. Using my 10 mile soldering iron for this, which you can see me doing a couple of videos about when I got it. very good value for money, temperature controlled. How accurate it is, I don't know, so don't post any questions about that in the comments, but it works well for me. So you've got to be pretty quick on header pins because you don't want to melt the plastic. Nope, missed that one. Try again, working around the camera as usual, proving to be a bit of a pain. Can't actually see what I'm doing. So, oh no, looking underneath, it's not. Holding it in the wrong place, probably. Oh, that's a bit of a blobber. Not the best joint. Anyone takes umbrage with my soldering, you can watch another video on how to make the Tapuino. Okay, just do this one up here. Really do the ends first. Up here. Not sure how clear this is on the video, to be honest. This one down here. Jumper 4, I think. Jumper 6, I'm not sure. Can't remember. Go. One there. I do enjoy soldering. I find it very therapeutic. Push that through a bit. Go. And one here. It's all of them a bit more now, actually. This is really good solder, this Duratool stuff, actually. It's not the most expensive stuff, but it really does have quite a nice bit of flux in it. Stinks, but so do I, at the end of the day. So that's all the headers done. If you're just joining me in this video, this is deliberate here, this cut track, as is this little sort of jumper stroke shunt here, and these ones off of the middle leg of the transistors. That is the aforementioned LED buzzer mod. Okay, so quick jump cut whilst I get the next bit ready. Okay, flipping the board over. New header pins. Now we can take our blue tack off. Of course, we'll be reusing that for the next bit. There's my little scrapey tool. Usually just do it like this. It usually comes off a bit easier than that, actually. I think this is fairly well used blue tack. Okay, so this one here should lift off fairly easy. Made it a bit too malleable. Yeah, I've made a right mess of this, haven't I? Lovely. And here we go. Of course, the best way to get blue tack off is to roll it with another bit of blue tack like this. That and there. Doesn't usually happen. That's what I say to all the women. Doesn't usually happen. There we go. Yeah, it's sort of stuck into the grooves of the header pins. Shouldn't happen on the other components. Yeah, it just comes up nice and easily when you roll a little bit of blue tack over it. Okay, so next, what should we put in? Let's see, what have we got? Jumper 4 deliberately left blank. These are all really, really solid now. Lovely. So how about some IC sockets, because they're quite big. Or should we do the... Before the IC sockets, I think what we'll do is we'll put these bead caps in. So we've got some bead caps, and we will pop them in. There's 4 of these bead caps, and they're all 100 nanofarads. Now these are non-polar. They're not bipolar, they're non-polar, although I suppose you could describe them as bipolar because they don't have a specific polarity, so they could go in both directions. Is that correct in your engineering terms? Don't know. One in there. pop this one into wherever it goes on the next board, which is here, I think. Yeah, it must be, because there's only one other cap on the board, and it's an electrolytic capacitor. Okay, I'm just going to pop the next one in here. Where's it gone? Dooby 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 quack quack. A bit of, anyone remember Dooby Duck's Disco Bus out there? Okay, and a little teeny weeny bit of Blu-Tack. Push it down quite so hard this time. A little bit there. A little bit here. And a little bit here. Okay. Flip the board over. And it's time for Simon's soldering iron to come back out. Okay. Don't know if you can see the leads very well because they're sort of poking up towards the camera. Okay, so clean the tip of the iron, tin the tip of the iron, and the first one is down here. So we'll do this one first. I'm in camera shot, aren't I? It's important to tin the tip of the iron because that's how the heat transfers out of the iron to the lead, and to a slightly lesser extent the pads as well. So it's important that the iron is on the lead, the leg of the component, and the pad, because they've both got to be hot for the solder to flow properly onto them. So I sort of like push down between the two, the tip of this iron, which lots of people will be going, that's far too big, but I tend to use this tip of iron for lots of things because I can use the edge here to get in between things. I use the big flat bit for you know, large things like heat sinks and stuff. This isn't actually that big. It's only a 3mm tip. It just looks massive on the camera because we're zoomed right in. I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay, all 8 good joints. Okay, and before I put the iron back in the holder, I always go back in here, give it a bit of that, and just a very quick covering of solder. Flux burns off. That's sacrificial then, because what that does is that allows the solder to burn off rather than the surface of the soldering iron. Right, so I'm just going to put that about there. And now we trim the leads off. The leads is what we call the legs of the component. Using a cheap pair of sort of £5 side cutters here. They've seen better days, if I'm honest. But they still work. They're a bit sort of akimbo when you look at the blades. No, like that, but they still work. I will get a new pair eventually. You can pay quite a lot for good side cutters. Right, so that is the bead capacitors, which are done. Now we'll roll the Blu-Tack off again. I wouldn't usually be putting this back into the vice rail every single time, but because I've set the focal distance for the board here, it's easier for me to do that so that you guys can see what's going on. Okay, so what have we got coming up next? We have got we've got some switches along the bottom. We got the IC holders. Got a couple of standoffs for the Arduino. A socket here, which is quite a biggie. We've got an electrolytic capacitor to go down here. Okay, so let's do the electrolytic cap next. It's 16 volt, 47 microfarad electrolytic capacitor. And if you've never used a capacitor before, these buggers don't like coming out for me. If you've never used an electrolytic capacitor before, the stripe is always the negative side of the capacitor. Okay, if it's an axial capacitor with a lead coming out of each side, then the negative side is denoted in the same way. Look for the negative. Okay, right, so we can see here we got, it's hard looking through the camera, we've got positive, and a negative. Okay, so positive by process of elimination is not the negative side, so we'll pop that through there. All the way down. Lovely. Push it in. Big old lump of blue tack there, just to hold her. Yeah, she's not going anywhere now. Seriously, blue tack makes life so much easier. Crap holding things on walls like posters, they fall off, but brilliant for holding tiny little things like components. Okay, clean that bit of sacrificial solder off the tip of my iron. Retin the iron. Okay. This is just how I've learned to solder myself, really. So if I'm doing anything wrong, do feel free to correct me in the comments below. I say that welcomingly, knowing that everyone's going to do it anyway. Might as well invite it. There we go. A good solder joint shouldn't look like a blob. It should look like a volcano. So when you've got your solder joints like this, for example, see if I can focus on that. It's very difficult to focus on it. Now I've just focal locked on the desk. Really not that helpful. Let's try one more time. That's better. Yep, so if your solder joints are really bulbous, then you've used too much solder, or the joint wasn't heated correctly, like the leg wasn't heated and the board wasn't heated at the same time. Because what happens is you end up putting loads of solder on and it doesn't run onto the bit that isn't hot. So you want the board and the lead to be hot at the same time. That is really pro tip, really. Not like I'm a pro, but... So we'll trim the leads off of this one. If I wasn't videoing this, I would have knocked this one out really quickly. But the whole point of me going through this is so that you guys can see what we're doing. Okay, so back in focus, I hope. Is that in focus? Don't know. It's kind of in focus now. So I'll do a few bits a bit later. So just do a quick jump cut because I've got to go and pick my kids up from school. Okay, and we're back after my school run. So we'll whip this bit of blue tack off that I've got to do on the last one. Just going to make that a bit more stable, actually. There we go, that's better. Let's make sure that's in focus. Yep, good. Last section of the video, I left it on autofocus, so it was zooming in and out, but that should sort that. Right, so yeah, that's nice and firm. Everything so far, good solder joints. Great. What we need to do now, I think the best thing to do would be to put these IC sockets in. IC integrated circuit sockets are located here and here, and if you look at the markings on the board, you'll notice that there's a little cutout at the end of each one, and that's important if you're doing this the first time, because you'll also see that there's a little cutout on the socket, and there's also a little cutout on the chip usually, so that you can orientate it the right way, so you get the right pin in the right hole. So that's the first socket, which is nice and done. Then we need to get the other socket. Where is that? Okay, so the other socket is look at the notch. Look at the notch. The 4052N chip is there. Try not to hide this from you as I'm doing it. The leg's bent. The legs are slightly bent on this, so I'm just going to unbend them and straighten them slightly. Okay. Oh, I've dropped it. That's probably how I got bent in the first place. Right. So let's pop him in there. I'm looking around the camera again. The curse of the DIY YouTuber. So good. So that's all the way in, and now what we need to do is, you guessed it, a little bit of blue tack, tack le bleu, down there, and again on this socket over here, just a little bit, just to stop it dropping off the board when we turn it over. I mean, there's no weight to these at all. Have I put the soldering iron back on after the school run? Yes, I have. Good on me. I never do things like that, like being prepared. Okay, in sacrificial solder off the edge of the soldering iron. Get ourselves a little splodge there, and the legs of the sockets are dead quick to solder because they're very thin. They have a flat side often, the cheaper ones. You can get round solder legs. Oh, that one wasn't terribly good. That's better now. Not round, sorry, solder legs. You can get round legs IC sockets. They usually cost a couple of pence more, but no, not a great deal in it for something like a project like this. Come here, little rotter. Trying to be quick on this one because obviously with a socket being plastic, if you spend too much time on it, what you can do is melt the socket. I mean, you really do have to horse it up quite significantly. There we go. I can see what I'm doing now. Look at that. That's all right. It's not the best, but this is a DIY project. On longer sockets, it's quite good practice to do the corners first, because what you can get as you go along is the sockets can creep out of the board even with a bit of blue tack there, because of the it does help if you're actually touching the pin rather than just hovering above it because you're looking through the video monitor. There we go, that's better. Right, so now we're going to do all the pins in between. 1, 2, a bit more on that. 3, 4. I'm going to stop counting now because it's probably annoying. So yeah, this sort of stuff is all just down to practice, really. Desoldering is a much harder to acquire skill. So I hope I haven't horsed this up. And there we go. If you struggle to see things on circuit boards, my recommendation is loads more light. Apply loads and loads of light, because the more light you've got, the smaller your eye contracts to reduce the flow of light into the back of your eye, and the smaller the aperture of your eye, the higher depth of focus you have front to back, so you can see more things front to back, which is why I always pour quite a lot of light into my videos so that I can have the aperture narrowed down so that we can get a bit more depth of field. Okay, so we'll whip that over. Okay, and of course the next thing we're going to do is we're going to whip that blue tack off. Probably stick to the sockets a bit. No, not at all. What I did in the first instance with the blue tack, where it was a bit sticky, I think I handled it a bit too much, because when blue tack isn't sticky, what you do is you handle it and it becomes warm, and the next thing you know it's sticky again. But I think I overhandled it. I made it a bit too gooey. So there we go. Next up, I think we'll do the switches. But I've got to run my children to drama club and swimming in a minute. This is the exciting life that I lead. So let's see what we can do with the switches. I think what we'll do, we'll place them in to the board. These are fairly simple, at least. And we'll see how much time I've got left. Time's up on the computer, 1:15. Not going to have time to do these right now. We'll pop them in. These won't need blue tack for the reason that they've got, if you look at the back of the switches, these particular switches, they've got a splayed leg, which means when you push them through, they grip the hole so they don't fall out, which is quite nice. Get quite a lot of components like that. Go and they're in. Lovely. See, in like that. And look, no foliouty. Very good. You do have to be a bit careful with that, however, because if you then lean on the leg as you're soldering it, you can sort of unclip it, as it were. So, right, so let's just get those into shot. How much longer have I got? Not much longer. How long? Not long. For what you reap is what you sow. Name that tune. Cool, that's an old one. Right, do the front ones first. That was an epic fail. Not one bit of solder took there. Example of how not to do it. There we go, that's better. I had the iron not orientated the correct way. Here we go. Alright, next one. So I got a bit distracted there because someone Facebook messaged me something about a freebie. Try that again. Yeah, that's better. And then joint and the board at the same time. These larger holes, quite a lot of the solder runs through. That's why you're seeing them seemingly go flat. The joints, the solder joints seemingly go flat there. So there we go. And one more here. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Right, I think we need to do that one still, and that one still. I missed those. Thanks for shouting out and pointing that out. Right, okay, looking good. Looking good. Well, that's all I've got time for in this little session. Now you can see illustrated how much time I have to literally grab back from my busy life. So, switches. They're all in. They're firm. They're secure. They're ripe like Galia melons. Look at that. Looking good. Okay, I'll do a bit more after all the drama and sewing runs. See you in a minute. Okay, so at this point I realised I made a bit of a balls up earlier with the modification for the buzzer LED mod. This lead here is meant to be through here, but unfortunately, if I flip it over this way, you can see that this lead is being used to a shunt, so it's going to be a pain to unsolder that and then unsolder that and get it back through the hole without cleaning that off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to desolder this bit, pull it back through the board, then I'm just going to use a bit of spare leg as a shunt for that, and I'll put this into the previous video as well. So if I'm repeating myself, you'll know why. Okay, firing up the iron. Doobie doobie doobie. These things are set to dry us out, aren't they? Apparently. Boom 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 boom. This is the easiest way. I mean, I've got loads of 10k resistors in the pot, but it's probably just as easy to pull that leg out and extend it a bit. Okay, Bobby using the solder sucker on this. I'll lever it up with a craft knife. Okay, so that's out. These things happen. If I'd have noticed before I'd trimmed the leads, then been such an issue, but okay, trying to straighten that now, so reworking stuff's always a bit of pain. That almost reaches actually. This is absolutely tempted to fudge it. Just straighten it out a little bit. There we go. Doesn't quite make it, does it? But you know, we use a little bit of lead, and I'm gonna just sort of bend a bit of this, like this, sort of hook shape. Pop it through the whole Vicar. It's a masterclass in ballsing up. I'm also going to need to make sure that nothing bridges underneath. I can see in the real world in 3 dimensions that there's no way that that's touching that pad on the board. So just turn the tip. It's messy as all hell, that is. Yeah, I don't much like that, but it is a good connection. It's not bothering anybody. Yep. Let's set this up so you can see that it's not touching that pad there. Now that's through there, we'll be able to just, I'm still half tempted to actually do it properly. There we go. Alright, clean the tip of the iron. Touch of solder. Back into the stand. Hey, what happens sometimes when you're doing things like videoing, for example. So there, that'll do. It's not the most attractive thing, but then again, there's already these mods on the board, so I don't think it's any more or less attractive than those. So yes, little addendum there. Sorry for that, guys, if I led you astray. I'll put a note on the video at the point where I do this originally. Cool. Okay, so next bit is I'm going to put these 470 ohm resistors into their positions on the board, and they will be located here, 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 here. That's 4, and then the 5th one is in R2 position. Okay, R4 position is not used. This R3 thing here, this R3 fix, actually bypasses that. So there's 5 of these in the kit. So let's do it. Now with resistors, you don't really need the Blu-Tack method. Although you do often need grips to pull the lead through, because they're difficult to get hold of and grip with your fingers. So if you want them tight to the board, and then I like to pull the leads off into separate directions like this, which then stops it coming out again. Yeah, lots of people do that. It's just a nice way of tying it into the board like a cable tie. Okay, next one. These are very soft and easy to do, these resistors. So next one is in here. Try not to get in the way of the camera. Not always easy. Okay. Down there. Again, getting these grips underneath the board and pulling the leads, because it's just too hard to grip the leads otherwise. There we go. And splayed the legs behind. Third one. Bend the legs like this. Either end of the resistor package, and we'll put this one into R8. These are the most difficult components to put in sometimes because the legs are quite unwieldy. Okay, so got one end down and the other end with the grips pulled down. I think I'm pulling the wrong leg there. No, maybe not. Come on, you git. I did get it, and then I'll let go of the other one. Yeah, that one's in. Split the legs out to stop it moving. R9 next. This is so much easier when it's not working around a camera. My evergreen excuse. Of course, I'm much more useless in real life because I don't get to edit real life. Good if you could edit real life, wouldn't it? Certainly a few bits I'd delete. I know that for nothing. I'll tell you that for the price of a piece of fish bob. I don't even know what that means, by the way. Okay, and R2. D2. Wonder if there's a C3. Yeah, look, C3 and R2 are together on the board. You only need a D2 and a PO. And D2 would be a diode. There are no diodes on this board. PO would be, I don't know, post office. Who knows? I'm waffling again, YouTube. I think I am. Right, there we go. That's through the board, and it's time to pull the little soldering iron out. So, come on, you bugger, in you go. Okie dokie. Right. Clean off the tip, as is my wont, and a little dab of solder to wet the tip. Then other end onto the lead and the pad at the same time. Yep, same up here. Comes in the great joint. Not the best joint, as the aging hippie said to the rock musician. Yeah, that one's alright. Okay, I'm going to actually clip these leads as I go because these are quite sharp and I am a delicate flower, as you all know. Ow, you bugger, pricked me again. Okay, let's clean that bit of solder off. Right, let's do this one. And this one here. Okay, clip these leads off now. Just going to quickly clean the tip as well. So I've got an opportunity. Wish my wife would make me a cup of tea. But no, she's surfing the internet looking at burly firemen as usual. Right, okay, so that one's done there, so it can come off. I like to clip leads quite close to the board. Okay, clean off the tip and wetting. Sometimes if you're overwet, you can just gently wipe it on the metal cleaner, and that'll clean that down a bit. So here we go. Pad and lead at the same time. Touched. That one's in, so I'll just move that over a bit. Pad and lead at the same time. Touch, solder. Okay, we're just going to do this one up here. Whilst we are here. Pad and lead at the same time. Touched, and my vise is actually made of steel, so get as close to it. It's not plastic, so don't panic. Right, okay, so that's done as well. Clip those leads off, and that's the resistors are done. Stay on my desk at the moment. I should say workbench, it's not really a desk. I call it a desk because otherwise my children get confused. Right, okay. So those are all in. Joints looking pretty good. A couple little bulbous ones, but nothing to really worry about. Okay, so they're in. Oh, look, that one bloody risen up. Bastard. I can't leave it like that. It'll drive me mad. Yeah, I can't leave it like that. It looks like it's about to leave. Yeah, that's going to have to be redone, that one. So I'm going to put this back in the vise. So with my finger on that resistor, I'm just going to dab at that pad. Because I cannot be leaving it like that. The other side as well on there. Okay, that's better. Is that even in camera shot? Probably. Just. Got a bit of a panic on there, YouTube. Making a couple of cock-ups in this video. Still, I suppose it's better that I do it so that you can not, as it were. Yeah, maybe we'll invest in some new side cutters. Right, so anything else that's risen up, decided to rebel? No, that's looking pretty good. That's okay. Fairly happy with those. Could have been closer to the board, but don't have to be. Right, so they're in. Good, 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 good. What is next, Mr. Peter Edwards of Elite Beef Blog? Let's see what we've got next. I think that we will put in the 2 rows of pins, which we are going to use to plug the Arduino on. So there's one there. It's starting to get dark in there now, isn't it, because of the light being blocked. And, oof, come on, you bugger. This pin's all a bit skew-iff. Doesn't quite line up. It's bent or something. No, that will not go. Oh, I know why. Okay, if you look there, I've managed to drag some solder across that hole there. So it is quest for the solder sucker, wherever that little bugger's rolled off to. Solder sucker, where are you? Quick jump cut. Found him, solder sucker. This, by the way, is the trusty SS02 engineer solder sucker from Japan. It's quite expensive, at a touch under £20, but has this silicone nozzle on the end, which means that you can go right up close to actually get into the bit you're soldering. Only downside of this particular model is you have to clean it between individual suctions. So let's just try first off with just a wetted iron. Not quite. Try again. Now that's cleared it. Okay, so yeah, this solder sucker, absolute gold dust. But like I say, you have to clean it between every action, as it were. Look at the solder dropping out there. Right, I'll never leave a solder sucker loaded because it damages the spring. Okay, back into the holder with the soldering iron. And this should go in now. It's a bit rough on one end, but I'm not too bothered about that. Yeah, that goes in nicely now. Should I bother trimming that off? No. More likely to damage it more if I do that, aren't I? So yeah, here we go. One more in here. Okay, now this is a definite candidate for a little bit of blue tack, which of course I can't find right now. So here we go, bit of blue tack there, and a bit of blue tack down there. Now we want these to be as perpendicular to the board as possible, because we're going to be mounting the Arduino Nano in there, which is the machine that does all the work. So yeah, I'm going to solder these pins now. I'm wondering if I should be fast forwarding these soldering sections actually. You'll find out what I decided in a second, I guess, when it's either fast forwarded or not. Right, so it doesn't really take that long, does it? So it says spaffing one of them up. Don't know how well you can see what I'm doing here, but I'm heating the pad and the board, like I say, but I'm not actually touching the iron. I'm actually touching the solder to the leg. And the reason for that is, if the leg is hot enough for the solder to melt on it, it's the right temperature for the solder to flow onto the joint. Clean off there. So, oh, that one did drop out. So much for the Blu-Tack theory. Oh. Gonna have to make my own tea in a minute, you know. Right, they're all okay, I think. Yep. Go over any that look like they might. No, they all look pretty good. Okay, so nearly forgot to coat my tip. Always cover your tip before putting it in the hole. That's right. Have to flip her back over again. Flip her over. Coat my tip. Whew, go for a hard drive. Okay, so that's back on. I'll quickly tag the two ends and that will stop it falling out again. Okay. Let's re-wet the end of the iron. Wipe it off, and this end is as good as any. And then we'll just make sure that's pushed all the way through. And do this end as well. Sorry if I'm getting a bit quiet. It's just when I do projects, it's kind of my quiet times. My voice ends up sort of becoming a bit low. I like my box openings where you probably, if you've watched those, quite animated. And that's because in my box openings I'm not actually doing anything of any import. I'm just talking nonsense, which comes naturally to me. I have a talent for it, as I'm sure many of my subscribers would agree. It's going to be nice to have a Commodore related video out there. Everyone seems to think I only do Spectrum, which is absolutely not the case. As much as I love Spectrum, I am platform agnostic. Okay, so go over those a bit. I can't quite see on this connector. Again, because the camera's in the way. But the pins are looking pretty good, so I need to go over there and just quickly reflow them. I'm sure there's some reason I shouldn't be doing that, which someone's going to tell me now in the comments. But yeah, there we go. That is done and done. Nice. Right, so they're done. Coat the tip of the iron, pop it back into the holder. Right, so they're on. Get the Blu-Tack off while we can. Let's come off all right. This really wasn't doing anything, this bit, was it? It was just a grip of the... So it's slightly splayed, but I reckon that'll pull in, actually. Well, I hope so. Otherwise I'm shafted. Let's check for... Yeah, that's fine. Wrong way around, but it's fine. Right, so that can come off again. Okay, so yeah, they'll go in there. Good stuff. The buzzer doesn't show which way round the buzzer should go, but let's pop the buzzer in anyway. I have a suspicion, he says, That's the ground plane there, so I reckon that ground is on the right. What have we got on the buzzer? Positive is there, so I think positive's in there. Check that with a meter of continuity of the ground plane. That's a ground pin there, so we'll go to that pin and touch this. Not getting anything. Oh, I think my plug's come out on my multimeter. Okay. So yeah, that's got to be positive there. You know what though, if it's not, I can always whip it out and wipe it and whack it back in again. Whip it out, wipe it, whack it away. The buzzer. It's my bit of bluey. Bluetech, where are you? Okay. I'll put another bit on the other side because it's quite a big package. So I don't actually want that wiggling around. I want that to be flush to the board. Like that. That'll do. As flush to the board as possible anyway. Wipe the iron. And let's move this over a bit so you can see. Okay. Excellent. Good joints. Okay, yep. Good joints. We'll just clip those off. Take the Bluetech off. Someone else out there use Bluetech? Have you got an alternative way of doing it? I'd love to know. I saw someone using tape on a YouTube video. It did not appeal to me at all. There's buzzers in there. Pretty sure that's the right polarity. No, that's no foul. If it's not, nothing's going to blow up. Clip leads off. You do have to reorientate it. They'll need to be the same length. So good. What else do we have to pop in here? We're getting there now. Oh, there's a socket, isn't there? Where's that socket gone? Socket. This socket, I believe, is for some of the other Vic machines. I think. I actually don't know. I'm sure it's documented somewhere. This is good because it's got splayed legs, so it will just grip the board. Okay, so that's in. Parent care and all that good stuff. Move right over here. There's some kind of drifting away from the light a bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is the corner sockets. Okay. Wetting the iron. And yeah, the corner pins of the socket, that's a terrible joint. I'm not really very happy with that joint there at all. That's better. These pins are very small. Does not want to go on that pin. This solder does not want to go on there. That's on there. Conversely, that one was a walk in the park. See, I'm using the flat there, flat part of the iron, because that's a larger base of metal, that flange there, and yeah, it's gonna draw a bit more heat. So okay, so how's that looking? Not too bad. I've not got a loop. There's something weird going on with the camera. It looks like these aren't good joints here, for example, but it is. It's almost got like a sort of a little Hershey's Kisses thing going on. I'll reflow them for the camera. Right, okay, so that's the socket in. I think once I've soldered all the things in, I'm going to call it a night for this part, and then I will revisit tomorrow with the flashing of the IDE, the Integrated Development Environment, which is going to be a whole different sort of video because it's basically got to be pointing at my MacBook here. But don't worry, the process is the same for Windows. I am platform independent. Okay, show, he says. Think that's about it. Yep. What's IC2? Oh, IC2 is the piggybacking. Okay. Right, so in that case, it's time to put these in. Now remember I said earlier that there's a notch. You don't always get a notch. Now if you look at this chip here, there's no notch, but pin 1 is denoted by this circle here in the moulding. It's actually moulded in, that circle, and pin 1 is always up the notch end. So that means that we need to put this in here. I should have done this before I soldered the things on, maybe. Okay, sorry about that. I couldn't do the socket around the camera, so I couldn't see what I was doing. But the chip's in, actually. I'll show you that. Okay, so you can see that's in. And again, that's the pin 1. There's the notch. If the notch was here, this end, then pin 1 would need to be there. So that's that. We'll go and get the other chip. Where's it gone? Here we go. And this one's a bit easier because look, you can see that we've got the notch, and the notch on the printing matches up with the silk screen. The match on the silk screen, rather, it matches up with the socket. Just loading this one in now. Yeah, that one was easier because it was a bit bigger and longer. Okay, so he's in. Okay, just show that to you. It's in. Lovely. Now, and finally, I think we need to just piggyback this on. And this is the Deek Robot Nano V4, which I'm not sure at all about because I don't know anything about Arduino at all. Don't know how to program it. I don't know really what it does. I know it's a programmable thing with lots of inputs and outputs, but it's all a bit too newfangled for me. Yeah, this is the way forward apparently, and it's got a button which pleases me greatly. So you power this thing via USB or via the Commodore 64, but never both at once. And this is what we put onto, excuse me, ooh. This is what we connect to my Mac or to your Windows PC with a cable, and we run the IDE for Arduino. And there's something called Sketch, which is the software for this. And you load it in, and then it knows what to do. These jumpers here are going to be part of the next bit of the build, where you basically connect up all the lovely yummy bits like the screen, which shows you what tap file you're playing, the SD card socket, look, see, all good, and the connector to the Commodore 64 itself, which is here. So I'm actually going to leave this here right now because it's late, I'm tired, and that's the main board built. All the other bits kind of need support items, like to go into a box and all that good stuff. So for now, this is Mark from Mark Fixes Stuff signing out, saying subscribe to get your fix and watch the next one in the series where we put the other bits together and program this little bugger here. Okay, cheers, bye bye.